Hello and welcome back to Beckler Guitars and Repair, and today we're checking out a bit of an underrated gem on the channel today. This is a Fender acoustic guitar, F65 Deluxe from 1979. Vintage Fender acoustic guitars are not very sought after in this day and age because they didn't really have too many great models or series. The exception being probably the F series. So these F series were actually crafted in Japan, super high quality materials, and lots of really nice appointments on here. This F65 Deluxe has a lot of cool things going on with it. So let's check it out. So first off, I picked up this guitar locally. I found a great deal from a local seller. I ended up getting this guitar with a hard case. I think it's the original hard case too. That's what the seller said. I'm not really sure what these came with originally. For $200 Canadian. So that kind of just goes to show you what people think of acoustic Fenders. Like, they don't command big prices. You can still find, you know, vintage ones very cheap because they weren't really well known for putting out great acoustics. This one, however, I think is an exception. So here it is, really nice shape. Has this vintage, old school, brown hardshell case that's in pretty decent shape actually. So despite Fender being, you know, a top brand in electric guitars, it never quite got there in terms of acoustic guitars. They were never really seen as, like, you know, top of the line stuff. In the 50s and 60s, they were mostly focused on electric guitars. There was a few acoustic models that came out, like the Kingman or the Wildwood in the 60s, but they were never really central to the brand. They kind of had like dyed wood finishes, bolt-on necks. It didn't really appeal to a lot of traditional acoustic players, and they were kind of seen more as like novelties rather than serious instruments. But then the F series came. So this is an F series guitar. This is an F65, and they started in the 1970s. So these guitars were made in, you know, Japan in some really nice factories. The Fujijin factory to start, and then later the Tokai Gaki factories. They're both really high-end manufacturers. The higher-end models actually had solid tops and really nice appointments like abalone binding, snowflake inlays, ornate rosettes, that kind of a thing. Despite their quality, they kind of struggled for mainstream acoustic recognition. So this whole market was dominated by Gibson and Martin back in the 70s. So this was kind of Fender's attempt to get in there. And they were actually putting out really nice acoustics, but they just couldn't get over the, you know, their soiled reputation for not putting out, you know, professional or serious acoustic instruments. So these were kind of overlooked at the time. However, today they're kind of considered to be vintage sleeper guitars, you know, hidden gems, that kind of a thing. And I've played a few F series in my life, and they've always been quite nice guitars. These Japanese made ones, especially the higher end models, like mid-range higher end ones that have the, you know, the solid spruce tops and the appointments. So this is the F65 Deluxe, and it's got some cool stuff. It's got, you know, this little dip in the headstock that was kind of part of the F series. It's got mother of pearl Fender inlay there with a bone nut, and it's got a really nice rosewood fingerboard. The neck is bound. It's got those fancy snowflake inlays. It's got abalone around the rosette here. And the guitar is bound in abalone as well. So very good looking guitar. This one does have the solid spruce top. Some of the F series did not, like the lower models, but F65s had spruce tops, F75s, some of the higher end ones too. So yeah, solid spruce top, nice craftsmanship, and nice materials that they made these out of. Some players on the internet say they sound a lot like a D28, which I think is kind of what they were going for aesthetically. So I played this a little bit when I picked it up. I didn't play it that much. It's got some old rusty strings on there. The guy said it hasn't been played in a very long time. So I'm going to set it up, put some fresh strings on there, and then we can hear how it sounds. But as far as condition goes, it's in really nice shape. No cracks. Sometimes these guitars dry out and the top splits over the years. This one appears to have survived. I noticed there's some like fingernail pitting in the fingerboard here. Some gouges taken out, and the frets are a little bit worn. But I think everything looks original on it. Another thing I noticed is there's a bit of a crack in the bridge here. So I've seen worse. It's just kind of starting to crack here. The guy, when I pointed it out to the seller, he didn't even realize. He said he'd been playing it a couple weeks ago and he had never seen that crack before. So it might have just happened. But it's pretty small, and I'll go over in the video a way that you can kind of repair that. Sometimes the repairs don't hold. Sometimes you need to replace the bridge. But, you know, end of the day, replacing the bridge is not the hugest deal. I've done many bridge replacements in my life, so I could always replace that if needed. But I'm probably going to go ahead and try to do the repair first and see how that holds. And just a quick flip to the back here. So these have rosewood laminated back and sides, which most acoustic guitars like this do have the laminated back and sides. But what a piece of rosewood. It's gorgeous. It's got some really nice dark streaks, and then it lightens right up in the middle. And then, yeah, really good looking guitar. The back is a little more chewed up than the front. It's got some scrapes and scratches and a few dings, but no cracks and no repairs. And the neck feels really good. It's got like that kind of a V-neck profile, like on some Martins. It feels really good. It's got a tiny bit of a volute there. Looks like the tuners are original. They're unbranded. They feel okay though. And the action's really good on this guitar too. Actually, there's room to go down on the saddle, so that means the neck is sitting quite nice. It doesn't need a neck reset or anything. There's no bellying on the guitar. Like sometimes over the years, the tension of the bridge can pull up the wood on the lower bout, but this one's sitting nice where it should be, and the bridge isn't lifting at all. Sometimes the bridge lifts over time, or sometimes the bridge cracks like this one did here too. But again, that crack looks pretty minor. And there is the Fender Model F65. It's deluxe because it has the abalone and the snowflakes, and our serial number, which is 7942048. So overall, great shape. I think I got really lucky with this find here. You can still find the F series for like really cheap prices used. The word is kind of getting out on them though. They're becoming a little bit more collectible. Prices are starting to climb a little bit more as people realize how good these are. They've got great craftsmanship and materials, and, you know, Japanese made, so they're quite nice. Let's go ahead and get it on the bench and take a look at the parts and specs, set this thing up, then we'll give it a playing demo and a sound sample. Weighing in at a very light 4 pounds 9 ounces, or 2.7 kilograms. First thing I'm noticing on this guitar is just the gorgeous rosewood. It's super light on the sides, and then yeah, the back, like I showed before, it's just got some really nice dark lines, and that really like lightens up in the middle. It's just a lot of character to the back. Here's a look at the other side. Yeah, just really nice grain. And we'll take a look with an endoscope on the inside to see what the bracing looks like. Here's a better look at that crack. So yeah, it's definitely there. It's not like it's huge or anything. And I've had luck, like I said before, just injecting glue into the crack and then using a clamp, closing it, and then just putting it back together. Sometimes that holds. Not all the time. Sometimes it'll just open back up. But again, replacing the entire bridge is not the hugest deal. Typically what I'll do for a bridge repair is I'll tape it all off. I've got a really thin like a putty knife almost that I use to, you know, work my way underneath the bridge. First I'll heat this up with an element to kind of soften the glue underneath, and I'll slowly work my putty knife underneath across the bridge over the tape, and slowly all the way off until it just pops off. Then I usually just clean up the bridge, and then I use my clamps, special clamps, to glue them, like deep-throated ones, to clamp them. And yeah, it's not a huge deal. You have to buy a new saddle most of the time for that repair, but you can find you know, modern day ones that are the same size and shape. But these strings are super rusted and old, so I'm going to go ahead and take them off, and then we'll take the endoscope and have a look on the inside. Just coming in the sound hole here, you can see the label with the serial number, and yeah, it's got some nice bracing there. Looks nice and clean on the inside. No weird dust bunnies or glue squeeze out. Nice and clean. Look at that nice rosewood grain on the sides. There is our truss rod there. Looks to be in good shape, not stripped out at all. Trying to get a better look at the bracing. There's our bridge plate there. There's our neck block. Yeah, so everything looks nice and clean on the inside. And now that this the string tension is off the bridge, this thing closed up really well. So like the crack is almost totally closed everywhere. So what I would do then is I'd probably string it back up, put the bridge pins in, and then increase the tension on the strings until that crack opened up a little bit. Then I would take glue. I've got like a little syringe that I can put glue into and inject. I would squirt that into the open crack and try to get it as deep as I could. I've got these little feeler gauges that I would just kind of dip in the glue and work down into the crevice to make sure it was really well covered. Then I would remove the tension from the neck, take out the bridge pins. That crack would just naturally close like it has just now, and all that glue should be squeezing out most of the crevices. And then at that point I would just use some hand clamps like this one here, like so, to keep the bridge clamped until it dried. And then that should keep that crack closed. I've had ones that held for years, and then I've had ones that opened up pretty quickly. So after it's repaired, if it opens up again, it's pretty hard to fix it because there's already glue in that crack. It's pretty hard to remove the glue once it's in there. So at that stage I would probably just remove the bridge. But this isn't a huge crack, so I've got high hopes that the repair would hold. So I polished it up, cleaned it up a little bit. The fingerboard was pretty gross. It was full of gunk and stuff. I cleaned that up quite nicely. And yeah, the guitar is in really nice shape for the age. I mean, this is 1979, so almost 45 years old. And looking this good. Not many of us can see the same. But yeah, not a lot of scratches or dings. Quite nice shape. No cracks or repairs. Well, except for the bridge, which hopefully I can fix here. And yeah, really nice abalone on the rosette and on the binding. This is a bone saddle. And the fingerboard cleaned up pretty nicely. We've got those really nice snowflake inlays. And the neck is bound. And a nice dark piece of rosewood for the fingerboard as well. And here's where we get some fingernail wear on the actual fretboard. You can kind of feel that. They're not super deep, but they're there. And a little bit of pitting in the frets here. Not enough to warrant a fret level yet, because when I played it, the action was quite low and there was no buzzing anywhere. So eventually you might want to think about leveling these frets, but I'm just going to leave them for now. I usually don't work on them until they become a problem. And then we've got our really nice bone nut. This style of bone nut's kind of cool because it like flares out at the end to match the angle of the headstock, which is pretty cool. And that nut is original because those nuts are very tricky to make. I've had to replace nuts like that for guitars like this, and it's hard to get all the angles correct because it's angled down the headstock. It sits flush in that pocket, and then you also have to meet the angle of the side of the headstock. So a little trickier than just a drop-in normal nut. And a nice rosewood on our headstock as well. And the Fender mother of pearl inlay looks quite nice. And I like the style of the headstock with that little gap there. Moving on to the back. And the back cleaned up nicely as well. There's still some, you know, surface scratches and stuff, but it looked way worse before I cleaned it. And the grain on the back is just really nice. Starts off like really streaky, some really nice dark spots, and then super light in the middle. And the sides are quite nice as well. And the neck feels, yeah, it's got that like V, that soft V neck, which some Martins have. I really like that. This one does have a volute and some sort of generic tuners. They feel a little bit loose, but they seem to work well. The guitar was staying in tune when it was strung up. We'll have to see how they work once I restring it here. But yeah, I'm quite impressed with the condition, and I'm pretty confident I can fix that crack quite easily. Hopefully it'll hold. So anyway, let's go ahead and restring this guitar, get a setup, and then we'll check the setup, and then we'll hear how it sounds. Might as well get some neck specs while the strings are off. So width at the nut, I have to go down from the nut a little bit because again it flares out to meet the angle of the headstock. So just back a tiny bit. It's a 1.70 inches or a 43.3 millimeters. And then here at the 12th fret, that is a 2.104 inches or a 53.44 millimeters. Neck depth at the first fret, it is a 0.91 inches or a 23.16 millimeters. And then we'll take it at the 11th because the 12th is kind of turning into the heel there. That is a 1.08 inches or a 27.63 millimeters. And here's a look at that soft V neck profile. So yeah, it starts out very like more pointed here at the first fret, and then it kind of rounds out by the 12th fret. So it becomes more like a V, and then it kind of turns into more of like a C by the 12th fret. And the neck feels really good. I've always really liked these V profile necks. They just they feel like thick, and the width is quite nice too. I don't know, there's just something that feels very comfortable about them. Alright, I'm going to string these up with my favorite acoustic strings, the EJ16s, D'Addarios, and then we'll check the setup, and then we'll hear how it sounds. Got a nice setup on this guitar. It didn't take much work. Basically the truss rod is right where it needed to be, and the action's quite nice on it too. Using my notch straight edge, you can see that there is very little space between the straight edge and the fingerboard. Normally I like to have a little bit more relief in my acoustic necks, but this one actually plays great just the way it is. Action at the 12th fret. On the low E, we're looking at about a 1.75, which is how I like it for acoustic, and about a 1.5 millimeters on the high E. So quite nice low action for an acoustic. And then here in the 3rd fret, you can see when I use the 3rd fret that the string's hitting that 1st fret. So that tells me that the neck's nice and straight and the nut is nice and well cut. So we've got nice low action here as well. Just gonna go through the neck here to make sure there's no buzzing or fretting out anywhere. I like to speed up this part. So yeah, nice low action and no buzzing or fretting out anywhere. I could absolutely get the action lower on this if I wanted to, but it's about right where I like it. So I'm gonna leave it as is. And the guitar feels nice and light. The neck feels super smooth. I think these came with a satin finish neck. It's kind of worn glossy over the years, but it feels really good. And there's no fret ends that are sharp or anything else like that, so it feels good. All right, I'm gonna mic this thing up and we can hear how it sounds. All right, I've got my AT2020 Audio-Technica condenser mic just out of frame here, and I've also got an SM57 mic'd up right close to the sound hole, so those are the mics I'm using. I'm just gonna go ahead and play, and we can see how it sounds. All right, final thoughts on this 1979 Fender F-Series F65 Deluxe. It's a really great acoustic. I would say if you can find any of these F-Series for sale used for a decent price, I would jump on it. I think these prices are climbing as people catch on to how good these are. I mean, they've stood the test of time. A lot of these are still in really great condition. This being a really prime example of being like, you know, a 45-year-old acoustic that's in really great shape. It never cracked, the bridge never came off, the belly never pulled up, the neck angle is still great. It doesn't need a neck reset or anything else like that, and it just played and sounded great. It's made of high quality materials. It's got, you know, a solid spruce top, really nice rosewood back and sides, mahogany neck. It's got bone saddle, bone nut. It's got really nice, you know, snowflake inlays. A nice ebony bridge. This one has cracked, but I am going to repair it very quickly here. And I haven't really decided if I'm going to sell this yet. I've got a really special guitar coming in a couple of months that's going to be an acoustic, and I just don't have a lot of room, so likely this will be up for sale. If I do decide to sell it, it will be up on the Reverb page if you want to take a look. But yeah, I would definitely say keep an eye out for these vintage Fenders, the F-Series, because they're great guitars. But that's going to be it for today. Thank you for tuning in to Beckler Guitars and Repair, and I'll have more for you really soon. Thanks a lot.